Hello and welcome to Unleashed. I'm your host, Will Bachman, and I'm excited to be here today with Nancy Mackay. Nancy is the founder and CEO of MacKay CEO Forums. Nancy, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Will. Thrilled to be here today.
First, for listeners who are not familiar with MacKay CEO Forums, give us an overview of what MacKay CEO Forums is.
Thanks, Will. Our dream at MacKay CEO Forums is to populate the world with inspiring leaders. And we do that by offering confidential peer support groups to our hundreds of CEO, executive, and business owner members across Canada.
Amazing. Tell us how MacKay CEO Forums is similar or different from other sorts of peer advisory groups that people may be familiar with. There's YPO, there's Vistage, there's some probably other ones that I'm not familiar with, but how does it fit into that landscape?
Well, I can honestly say, Will, that there's an unprecedented need for peer support in today's world. It's lonely at the top and very difficult for CEOs and top executives to surround themselves with people that they can work with to help them solve their toughest problems and maximize their best opportunities. And so as a peer group industry, there's enormous potential for all organizations that are offering peer support to CEOs and top executives, because it's lonelier than ever at the top with the exponential change world that we live in, with the mental health crisis that's taking place. Most people talk about mental health challenges at different levels of organizations, but because I literally work with hundreds of CEOs and executives every day, it's real. And it's a very challenging business environment out there. So my view is the world needs more peer support, and the world needs more modern, trusted advisors. And these are consultants that are current and relevant and are able to support CEOs and executives on their very challenging journey.
So let's start by talking a bit more about the current MacKay CEO Forums, and then I want to go back and get some of the backstory. But so MacKay CEO Forum today, talk me through what, sort of who is the typical population, and also explain to me what happens within one. So, how often do they meet? Is it online or in person? And how long, how often, what's the sort of agenda? Is there content brought to the table, or people just sharing whatever? It's just give me the 1, 2, 3.
That's a lot. That's more than 3, and I'll try to do a 1, 2, 3 on you. So I'll start with describing our MacKay community. And so we have over 1,200 CEOs, executives, and business owners from all different industries all across Canada, from Victoria to St. John's, Newfoundland, everywhere in between. Members that participate in over 100 14-person peer learning groups. And we have over 60 consultants who have been trained and certified on how to offer peer learning support to our members. And we have our leadership team, of course, that we're focused on doing everything we can to support our forum chairs who offer the peer learning support to our members and to our hundreds of members. And currently, when you ask the question about what is the format, I can talk about, I started a CEO group 15 years ago, and I still chair my group in addition to being the CEO and founder of MacKay CEO Forums. And my group has 14 CEOs from all different industries. The revenue size, generally speaking, at MacKay CEO Forums, our members are privately held for-profit companies, revenue anywhere from 5 million to 5 billion plus. We do have some peer groups for $1 billion plus CEOs, but most of our peer groups across the country are for entrepreneurial, privately held people that want to grow their businesses. That's why they join a peer group. And they join because they want to be the best version of themselves. They want to develop their leadership, because their belief and our belief is to be a successful business leader, you have to work on yourself. That's a a lifelong journey. So my group, we have 14 CEOs that are from all different industries: an auto dealer, a manufacturing company, a retail business, a financial services business, private equity firm. So it's all different industries. And there's 14. It's confidential. It's non-compete. We meet 6 times a year for a day, and we do a 2-day annual retreat. And every time we meet, there's a 1-hour speaker. Most of our forum chairs who are consultants, they are speakers with MacKay CEO Forums. We also have external speakers, and we have speakers from our partner program. So there's a 1-hour speaker at every meeting. And then after the speaker leaves, we get into the very confidential updates where CEOs will talk about their biggest issues and challenges and opportunities related to business, family, and personal. And every meeting, every time, they get to put a business issue on the table that they want some help with. And then after the issues are on the table, we do what we call sharing experiences, which is our judgment-free approach, low ego approach to getting people to tell true stories about what they've done that's worked and what hasn't worked. And then we get a round of commitments at the end of the meeting. So the meetings are very high energy, high impact, fast paced. And, you know, I always say one of the biggest objections we get for people that are exploring joining a peer group is, I don't have time. And actually, that's not the truth, because we all have 24/7. And if you're surrounding yourself with 14 CEOs from all different industries that are all running successful businesses with a growth mindset, you're going to save a lot of time. You're going to get all the shortcuts. You're going to have people helping you with every issue you've got, whether it's business, family, or personal. So it's going to save people a lot of time. And again, I believe the world needs more peer support. So anyone today who's in some type of a business leadership role, if they don't have peer support, whether it's structured or unstructured, I just don't see how they're going to win in today's world. And then I can't help but say the role of the forum chair. All of our forum chairs are modern trusted advisors. They're very, very successful consultants with extensive experience working with CEOs, executives, and business owners. And they have a huge role to play in terms of chairing those meetings and the retreats and creating a very confidential, sacred space for CEOs and executives to be very vulnerable with each other and to be able to be successful in their careers, but also not sacrifice their health and their important personal and family relationships.
Could you give us an example or two from perhaps from your own experience leading one of the groups? A specific example, sanitized, of course, of where a kind of issue that a CEO would bring to the group, and what was the valuable advice that they got or the mindset shift that they received from feedback or ideas from the other 13 members. So just give us a couple examples of what that peer learning support looks like in practice.
I think that one of the key ones the issues I hear as we launch all kinds of new groups across the country, a CEO is really thinking through, is this what I want to do? And everyone's planning their exit, whether it's CEOs or executives. I've never seen anything like this, Will. In my 18 years since I founded MacKay CEO Forums, so many people in transition. So people have the opportunity to put on the table, look, I'm thinking about selling my business. And they're sitting around the table, judgment-free, total confidential environment where other people can say, I sold my business and here's how I did it. And then I got bored and then I had to start a new business, or I didn't totally sell my business. I found a private equity partner. So it's people really thinking through, am I in the right role? And is this what I want to be doing with my life? So whether it's a CEO or executive, a lot of that conversation goes on. The other conversation that goes on is, I want to scale my business. I want to double my business in the next 2 to 3 years. And I'm really struggling with finding talent to help me scale. And we did a member survey of our hundreds of members on what's keeping them awake at night. And the three key themes were the recession, and the second one was all on talent. How do you deal with finding talent, attracting top talent, retaining, developing talent? And then the third one was around how do we continue to build successful cultures in this hybrid world? So those topics are very common topics discussed. The other one, there's lots of discussions around succession planning. How do I plan my succession? I'm not planning to go anywhere right now. And I know that I have to plan succession for me and my top team and throughout my organization. So all kinds of people-related issues. People have challenges dealing with their boards. And there's lots of opportunities for building better relationships between board members and CEOs and creating a much better competitive advantage through greater collaboration with boards. So those are some of the examples, Will, that people talk about in the confidential peer groups.
How do you segment the peer groups? I can imagine, you mentioned that you range from 5 million to 5 billion. I can imagine someone who is the CEO of a 750 million business is going to have a lot different issues than someone who's running a $5 or $6 million business. So do you kind of try to separate them by size? Talk about that a little bit.
We do actually. We have different types of peer groups. So we have peer groups for $1 billion plus company CEOs. We have peer groups for 5 million in revenue to 50 million in revenue, peer groups from 50 million to $500 million. So it's not a hard and fast rule because we have people in groups that used to be running very huge companies and now they've launched their exciting startup. So we really take each person's full background and experience and ensure that if anyone's going to join a peer group, it's going to be a best fit peer group. The other types of peer groups, we have ones that are specifically for CFOs or specifically for CHROs. We have lots of cross-functional executive groups where we put CFOs and COOs and VPs of HR and VP sales marketing all in one group. And that's really, in my view, the most effective way to accelerate executive development. And we've had hundreds of our executive peer group members graduate into our CEO groups. They're for people that want to become CEOs, that's their aspiration. That's a really great peer group for them. And I forgot to mention in your previous question, Will, that we also talk about personal and family issues in the peer groups, because again, our goal is to help people be successful with their careers and not sacrifice their health and their important personal and family relationships. So people will come to their peer group and talk about the health issues they have, or their aging parents, or the challenges they're having with their kids, or if they're going through a divorce. And they have a lifelong group of business supporters and friendships that they build to help them through every aspect of life, not just their career.
What are some of the key tips that someone needs to learn in order to run an effective peer learning group? So for someone to be one of these group chairs, it's one thing to be a good consultant, a good advisor, but how is it different, or what is unique and special that someone needs to learn how to do to be an effective chair of one of these groups, where you're maybe taking a step back and not being the person who's given the advice, but you're trying to make the meeting run effectively? Share some of the advice that you give to the chairs of these groups.
Well, I'll share 3 tips. The first one is, I always say this, as a chair, I'm not the star in the room. And peer support, people join a peer group because they want to be sitting around the table with their peers, solving their toughest challenges, maximizing their best opportunities. So they join a peer group because it's exactly that. They want to surround themselves with people who have been there and done that before, where they're headed with their businesses, and they're there for peer support. So I'm not the star in the room. It's all about the members. The second thing is it's judgment free. So as a chair, it's really my role to create I call it a very sacred space of vulnerability so that people can park their egos, including me parking my ego as a chair. No one needs to be the smartest person in the room. And it's really our approach, our whole leadership philosophy is about judgment-free and sharing experiences. So we really help CEOs and executives get masterful at telling stories and being vulnerable and talking about the mistakes they've made, the challenges they've had, what's led to their success, and parking ego. It's not about showing up and being the smartest person in the room and you have all the answers. It's really about showing up as the best version of yourself and being surrounded by people that are not going to judge you. They are there to cheer you on and help you be successful, and also to help you face it when you are your ego's getting in the way, and that perhaps you've made some mistakes that you've got to apologize. And then the third tip is being a chair is really about helping people achieve their full potential. It's not about being nice to the people around you. I have CEOs saying this to me all the time. I don't need people to be nice to me. I'm a CEO. Everybody's nice to me. So when they attend a peer group meeting, they really want their chair to make sure that the meetings start on time, end on time, that the meetings are high accountability, that people are really telling the truth about what's going on, that people are sharing their experiences and really making bold commitments at the end of every meeting. It's how learning and growth happens. We can learn, we can network, we can have some fun, but at the end of the day, if we're not making commitments to take action, then nothing changes and our leadership doesn't evolve and our businesses don't benefit. So being a chair is not about being nice to CEOs. It's about challenging them and holding them accountable so that they can achieve their full potential.
Can you talk a little bit about just the role of the chair, and sort of how someone becomes a chair, what's the certification process, and also I think I understand that the chair is actually responsible for recruiting the members of their group, right? So they kind of are doing kind of the client development to pull their group together. Talk to us a little bit about how that works.
Well, I will say this, at the starting point of becoming a chair is having your own independent consulting practice for minimally 3 years. So we really have, over the 18 years of partnering and growing these groups and partnering with consultants, it's having your own successful advisory practice and extensive experience working with CEOs, executives, and business owners from all different industries. That's the beginning of the forum chair journey. And then the other aspect of it is our most successful chairs are really partnering with MacKay CEO Forums and signing up for our certification program because they really want a roadmap to success on building world-class, long-term peer learning groups for CEOs and executives. So we have a proven system of building these peer groups. We've launched over 100 groups in over 18 years. And so we're not perfect. We're always evolving and improving. And so our best fit chairs that are most successful want a proven roadmap to success on how do you build these groups, and then how do you continue to achieve chair mastery. So we have a certification program that's experiential learning. It's not a boot camp approach. You become a chair, and then there's one-on-one coaching that I do with new chairs. There's peer learning that happens on a weekly basis. There's observation. We co-chair groups. Like, there's a lot of investment we put in place for our chairs. And then we have a chair mastery program where once you've been a chair for several years and you've chaired several groups and established that level of mastery, then you become a master chair. So it's a very exciting opportunity, I would say, for people who have a passion for populating the world with inspiring leaders and bringing people together, facilitation, that type of experience. And I can honestly say, when I started chairing these peer groups 18 years ago, I had no idea I would still have just as much passion for chairing peer groups 18 years later, because every single meeting, there's a speaker, there's learning from the CEOs, there's so much learning and growth that happens every single meeting, every time. And we have a whole team of people to help people learn how to be chairs and achieve chair mastery.
Talk to me from the perspective of the CEO who joins. I imagine, well, let's say consultant A or coach A, right, could just go create their own forum, the Jane Smith forum, and invite people to it, 14 people, and they just pay Jane directly, and she runs a forum, and they meet every 2 months. Coach B is a chair within the MacKay CEO Forums, and the CEO can join a forum that is part of the MacKay CEO Forums. What's the benefit that a CEO gets from being in a forum that is part of the overall MacKay CEO Forums? Are additional like conferences or content or connectivity across forums? Like, what would the benefits be of being part of the broader network of MacKay CEO Forums?
The benefit of partnering with MacKay CEO Forums and becoming a chair and getting certified is that we have a proven roadmap to success on how to build these groups for the long term. We also have a peer group of consultants, over 60 of them across Canada, where we bring our forum chairs together and ensure that they get access to current, relevant information, all of the events we put on. We have an annual summit this year. It's on November 15 in Vancouver on the Talent Advantage. So it's a full day of peer learning with 500 CEOs, executives, and business owners. That's exclusive to our forum chairs. So we have learning opportunities, networking opportunities, and it's a very lucrative opportunity for forum chairs because our members hire our forum chairs. And we endorse every one of our forum chairs to our members. And our forum chairs are highly rated speakers with MacKay CEO Forums. And so there's lots of opportunities to expand your business network and to be able to do business with people in our community. And I always say the world needs more peer support. So if there are consultants out there that have an extensive network of CEOs and executives, and they prefer to do put their own group together and offer peer learning to people that they know, then there's nothing wrong with that. If it's appealing to become part of a community of very successful consultants and business leaders, then and if it's appealing to have a proven roadmap to success, then that's what would make sense for people who want to explore MacKay CEO Forums.
I'd love to hear the origin story. Take us back. How did you initially get the idea to organize your own forum, and then how did that evolve into multiple forums and the institution that you run today?
Well, the origin story started when I got invited to be a speaker at a CEO peer group meeting here in Vancouver. One of my clients was a member of a CEO group, and I just completed a major strategic planning project with his organization. And he called me up and he said, "Nancy, I'd love to have you come and speak to a bunch of guys that I hang out with that are my CEO group." And I thought, okay, happy to do anything to support you. And so I did a presentation to his CEO group, which at the time did not allow women into the CEO group. And after my presentation, the guys said, "Oh, we loved your presentation." And the person that was chairing that group came to me afterwards and he said, "Nancy, we loved your presentation. Ted speaks so highly of you. Would you like to become our forum chair? I'm going to be retiring from this, and I nearly fell off my chair because I knew that they didn't allow women, and I was the first female speaker they ever invited into their group. And I said, look, I don't have any judgment. At the same time, if you want me to throw my name in the hat to become your chair, then you really need to decide that you're going to allow women in. And fortunately, and I'm very grateful for those 14 amazing men, who many of them are still part of MacKay CEO Forums and have been my mentors, that they had a very important meeting and decided to allow women in. And I got selected as their chair, and I started chairing their group. And MacKay CEO Forums is a beneficial corporation. We take a stand on diversity and inclusion, and social change happens one person at a time. And those guys created the opportunity for me. And that's how MacKay CEO Forums got started. And that group still exists today. I'm no longer their chair. I had to transition out of chairing that group. But and so for the first 5 years, it was just me. I decided that the world needed more peer support after I started chairing that one group. One day of my time and 14 CEOs, they would all leave the meetings with greater confidence and courage, and really learning from each other that they didn't have to sacrifice their health and their important personal and family relationships. And so I decided the world needs more peer support, and that I was going to build 10 of these CEO groups across Canada so that it wouldn't have to be lonely at the top, at least for the CEOs that I was working with. And that took about 5 years. And so once I achieved that goal, and my husband has been my business partner since day one, I said to him, look, I think this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. I want to be populating the world with inspiring leaders. I want to be finding other like-minded consultants who have a passion for working with CEOs and executives. And I want to train them on exactly what I learned how to do over the past 5 years. And I want to help them achieve really great success with their own businesses. And I want them to have the fulfillment and the development that I've had. So that was the beginning of MacKay CEO Forums, where we decided that we were going to be building out and scaling out the business, and started partnering with consultants and certifying them and training them on how to build these groups. And fast forward to today, we have over 60 forum chairs and hundreds of members across the country. And we're on a path to 10,000 members around the world, which has always been my dream, to be able to offer peer support and continue to just support business leaders through their journey.
Now, for someone who's interested in becoming a forum chair, what is the process? And is this primarily looking for people based in Canada at this point, or just tell us the process and the qualifications that you're looking for, and how it works if someone wants to sign up?
For anyone interested in learning about how to become a forum chair, they can contact me personally, Nancy at MackayCEOForums.com, or they can go to our website, which is MackayCEOForums.com. And we have a very simple chair capability assessment that people can self-assess whether or not they are ideally suited to becoming a forum chair. We are currently looking to partner with consultants that are based in BC, Alberta, and Ontario as our primary areas for growth over the next year. And at the same time, we have peer groups all the way from Victoria to St. John's, Newfoundland. So any Canadian management consultants interested in learning more, open to exploring the opportunity with them.
Amazing. Just getting back to the question of being a forum chair, you talked earlier about some of the things to do to realize that you are not the star. What are some of your tips of what to avoid doing? So for someone who is facilitating a peer learning group, what are some things not to do?
Well, this might seem odd given our audience is management consultants, but the number one mistake our new chairs make is giving advice and telling people what to do. And when nothing wrong with that, when someone hires you to, obviously, prior to starting MacKay CEO Forums, I was a very successful independent consultant and loved working with CEOs and their top teams on all different aspects of strategy and leadership and what have you. But when I became a chair, I had to learn how to be in the room and simply share my experience, because that's what people sign up to do. They want people telling real stories of their real experiences of what they've done. And so it's really, when I'm in the room chairing my group, it's never about here's what you should do, I'm the smartest person in the room, here's the 3 tips on what you need to do. It's always about here's what I actually did and it was a train wreck, or here's what I did and it was really successful, or here's what one of my clients did and they're very successful at tackling that problem. So it's really creating the space for a different approach to influencing. And I had to really learn the importance of sharing experiences, telling stories, judgment-free. And then I became a much better consultant, actually, once I started chairing these groups. Because when I had a CEO coming to me with a problem, I could consider giving the 3 tips, or I could consider actually sharing a story about another CEO or sharing my own experience. And I actually found that sharing experience and telling stories created a lot more inspiration for people to take action. And so I'm such a huge believer in it, MacKay. It's our entire leadership philosophy. We developed the MacKay Mastery Model for Inspired Leadership. So that's the other thing, Will, that's part of our certification, is that we train our chairs on our MacKay Mastery Model for Inspired Leadership, which is all about how do you inspire yourself every day. And shared experience is one of the 10 key effective leadership areas that we focus on and train all of our members and chairs on: time mastery, ego mastery, passion mastery, innovation mastery, social contribution mastery, health mastery. These are all the elements that we believe are required for business leaders today to inspire themselves every day. And so we definitely offer that as part of our certification for our chairs, as well as all of our new members who join MacKay CEO Forums.
How do you advise chairs to keep the meeting on track? So, how do you decide, and what's sort of the right language to use when, if a conversation is meandering or getting a little bit off track or whatever, to say, hey, let's put that in the parking lot, or you want to give some freedom to the members to talk about what they want to talk about. But on the other hand, you have a mission. You have one day and you got to get through 14 business problems, right? Everyone needs to share. So how do you, tell people to make that call of when something feels like it's meandering, and how do they step in?
One of our key areas of focus with our chairs and members is time mastery. And that happens to be my main area of expertise as well. I've literally coached hundreds of CEOs and consultants and forum chairs on time mastery. So it's just a huge part of our culture. And so we start on time, we end on time. We are really respectful of people's time. We don't waste people's time. And we literally do time mastery goal setting with every new member and every new chair who joins MacKay CEO Forums. So this is a great question, Will, because it is a heart of our whole leadership philosophy. Is we all have about 100 waking hours a week. And we all need to be very intentional about how we spend our time, where we spend our time, who we spend our time with. And in particular, when we're chairing the peer group meetings, our members expect us to be that person in the room who's going to, we literally use a timer. And so we have 7-minute breaks during the day. We make sure that we start on time, we end on time, that we have a timer. Each CEO gets 5 minutes to do their update and put a business issue on the table. And our belief is we have to be exemplars of chairing effective meetings. And then our members take those tools and they bring those tools into their own organizations as well.
Super helpful. Nancy, for listeners that want to follow up and learn more about it, where would you point them online? You gave some info earlier, but we always like to have it here at the end. what's the best links for people to look into?
Well, two options. I'm happy for anyone to contact me directly at Nancy at MacKay CEO And also we have our website, which is MacKay And I'm so thrilled to be here with you today, Will, and all of your listeners, and grateful for the opportunity.
Well, Nancy, congratulations on growing such an amazing organization. And thank you so much for joining today.
Thanks, Will.